Welcome to the Tesla Power Podcast. This is the Tesla energy community covering solar panels, solar roof, and Powerwall for your home. I'm Aaron Brady. Today, let's talk about the Tesla shareholder meeting. It will include battery supply allocation and cost, Tesla energy business tracking, affirming their residential take-to-market strategy, generating solar roof market demand, and let's look at long-term Tesla residential energy business. Let's see what future products they might offer. Speculation, anyone? Let's do it. So for every other podcast, we would start with community input, but for this one, we already have a full show. But queue up your comments for the next show by commenting below. You can also contact us by calling 203-816-5150, or you can email teslapowerpodcast@gmail.com. But let's jump straight into the annual shareholder meeting. Our first clip is from Chairman of the Board, Robin Denholm. She gives an overview of the last year. Let's take a watch.
Since we last met as a shareholder group in September of 2020, a lot has happened at Tesla. I want to just recap some of the things that have happened over this last 12 months. So in the 12 months that ended September of 2021, we've delivered over 800,000 vehicles. We've also started new production lines in Shanghai. We've commenced the pilot production of our own in-house battery cells. And on top of that, we've constructed 2 new gigafactories on 2 different continents, including the one that we're here today in Texas. But maybe most importantly, our mission of accelerating the world's transition to sustainable energy remains at the center of what we do. Over the last 12 months, Tesla has continued to help shift the public perception of electric vehicles, and it wasn't too long ago that many people were still questioning the future of EVs. I would say that today that's no longer the case. There is no doubt that the transition to sustainable transportation and the transportation industry is turning electric. In many places around the world, you can't drive down the street without seeing many Teslas, which to me is an incredibly proud thing and a testament to our progress. While our performance to date has surpassed many common expectations, we believe that we're only at the beginning of what the long journey ahead that we have. As we disclosed in our impact report this year, by 2030, we are aiming to sell 20 million electric vehicles per year and deploy 1,500 gigawatt hours of energy storage per year. Our mission is clear. The automotive sector and the energy sector have to become fully electric.
And it's clear from her summary that Tesla Energy, and probably more so Tesla residential energy, has not been a priority. So she affirms, of course, that it remains a core mission for Tesla, and that over the next 10 years, they expect to ramp up to 1,500 gigawatt hours of energy storage per year. But if we figure that half of that is going to go to residential, maybe generous, then we're looking at about 750 gigawatt hours of Powerwalls in 2030. Now, that's a target of roughly 500,000 Powerwalls delivered in the year 2030, and that's not nearly enough. I mean, we have 2 Powerwalls at our house, and it's not nearly enough. So if every household gets only 2 Powerwalls, and that means only 250,000 homes are going to get Powerwalls in 2030, that's worldwide. I mean, with the U.S. Census in 2020 counting 120 million households, I mean, this wouldn't even move the needle 1% in the U.S., let alone worldwide. You know, there's an unbelievable amount of work to do, coming up. So that first bit of work that we've got to do in the hierarchy is battery supply. So Elon addressed supply directly in his opening remarks. Let's watch.
And we need a lot of batteries. Hence, Battery Day is what this shirt means. Very obtuse. But we are going to need a lot of batteries. And this is going to be a combination of batteries from our suppliers, And in supplier discussions, some of our suppliers have just asked me outright, are we going to just, put them out of business or something? I'm like, not at all. As many cells as you want to make and supply to us at an affordable price, we will buy. No limit. I'm like, oh, okay. So like, do you want to, increase by 100%? Sounds good to me. So the basic plan is we're really going to order a lot and we have ordered a lot of batteries from suppliers. Basically telling suppliers literally go as much as you can make, we'll take. And we'll prioritize batteries for vehicles, but then use any excess cells that we have in the Powerwall and Megapack. Because over time, we think the demand for stationary storage is going to be at least as high as the demand for vehicles.
Unlimited demand. I mean, he quotes, as many cells as you want to make at an affordable price, we will take. I mean, that's incredible. If you consider how enormous the requirement is for stationary storage, just residential stationary storage, there's no surprise that Tesla will take every cell suppliers can provide. And they're making their own. They're not just looking at suppliers to provide everything that they're going to use. I mean, it's just incredible. And it's incredibly hard to provide residential energy storage at prices and volumes that are required over the coming decades. I mean, this doesn't even take into account, automotive, where Tesla is making their money at the moment. This requirement is just hard to get your head around. Just all of the batteries that are going to be required over the next 20 years. So, of course, this is bad news for residential energy storage because the automotive business will be taking priority for many years as it introduces new models and ramps production. I mean, we won't see residential energy storage become a priority until maybe after 2030. At that point, they'll be, they're planning to produce 20 million cars a year. And then maybe at that point, residential energy storage can become a priority and we'll see some precipitous price declines. But that'll be a while. Don't forget that scaling battery production for automotive, that is what's making lower prices possible for residential energy storage. I mean, it's easy to think that automotive is starving residential energy storage, but those automobiles are likely to end up in many garages where they may be able to contribute to residential energy storage. So it's not the end game. I mean, homes are going to need their own batteries, especially since you can't power your home with a car that's not in your driveway. Although maybe it can in a way, and we'll talk about that later. But once the need for batteries in our vehicle fleet's been met, there's going to be a tsunami of production available to meet residential energy storage demand, and prices will become much, much more affordable. Of course, it's not just enough to make more batteries, but they need to be made more affordably, right? So Elon points out that Tesla's effort to do this is being shared with suppliers, and that both suppliers and Tesla production together are required to meet Tesla's ambitions for the 2020s.
So we've got a plan to reduce the cost per kilowatt hour of batteries. And our suppliers, have similar plans. So this is really supplemental to our suppliers. We'll make cells, they'll make cells, we'll use them all. The fundamental good of Tesla, I think, is by how many years did we accelerate sustainable energy? This is the fundamental, I think, way to think of the value of Tesla. And so if we are able to accelerate sustainable energy by more years, that is good. Hence the need to grow quickly.
So what is sorely underappreciated here is that Tesla is not looking to rent seek on lowering those battery costs. They own the patents. They own the production tooling companies that are going to make this transition to sustainable energy possible. And these patents and products are being made available to its suppliers. It's just super clear that it's in Tesla's interest to do this. The more they can get suppliers to supply, the faster the whole world can move on in Tesla's direction to bring on the advent of sustainable energy. But even if they aren't rent seeking today, even if they aren't squeezing these companies for profits and making more profits for themselves, it's worth taking a moment to appreciate how much of the value chain Tesla owns and how much of the supply chain they control. I mean, this isn't raised in the shareholder meeting, but Tesla is working all the way back to raw material mining in an effort to secure their ability to deliver on these extraordinary aspirations. So, cost is a huge hurdle, and it will continue to be until the automotive market is more saturated, especially for us as consumers. But up to this point, the automotive business has been dominating Tesla's financial reporting. Elon got a question about more reporting detail on the energy side of the business. Let's take a look.
We provide a quarterly update on energy along with automotive. Yeah, I mean, we need to make more progress on energy. This year has been limited. Like I said, the chip shortage, the same chips go into our stationary battery packs as in the cars, and we prioritize the cars. So, and we need the inverters for solar and that kind of thing. So, this year has not been a good guide for progress in energy. I think next year it will be probably a good guide, and we can start providing updates that I think people would interpret correctly, as opposed to, having to explain, well, we either had to short cars or energy, and we picked cars. So,
I mean, this isn't great news if we're going to be honest. This is coming from a notoriously optimistic source, Elon Musk, that the energy part of the business isn't likely to be significant enough until the middle of this decade to even bother tracking in more detail. He notes that the interpretation or market perception of how that business unit is performing is important, but I don't agree with that perception. Perception is important, but now that Tesla is profitable and has all-time low short interest, this is of minimal consequence. I mean, not only is Tesla able to get, great debt financing terms, but it's generally generating more cash than it can spend. Right now, even though it's building 2 factories, scaling 2 others, dealing with the chip shortage, and on top of all of that, it's spending a premium on transportation to keep all of that moving at eye-popping growth rates. So reporting more detail on Tesla Energy, in my opinion, will shift the focus, really the hyper-focus, away from Tesla Auto, and will broaden the conversation to include, Tesla Energy Storage. Not that I'm the expert, I admit, but of course, I care about residential energy storage, but my real interest is in the Tesla Solar Roof product. So late in the shareholder meeting, a question from Robert Maurer of Tesla Daily via say.com asked, quote, let me bring that full screen right here. From an external point of view, solar roof progress continues to be slow relative to the rest of Tesla's products. Shareholders understand the difficulty with the solar roof, but when can we expect solar roof to realistically become a significant business line, like more than 50 megawatts per quarter, end quote. So Tesla goes on to answer, and let's take a look.
So from, I guess people can see these slides, right? So no need to read the question. Yeah, I think we're actually making rapid progress with solar roof. Solar in general and energy in general got kind of shortchanged for a couple of years there because we were desperately trying to make the Model 3 and reach volume production. So we just moved everyone from anywhere in the company that could possibly work on Model 3 was working on Model 3. It was all hands on deck, as you know. So there were just a couple of years where we just, if we got to save, if Model 3 fails, the whole company's dead. So we're just going to move everyone from solar, from everywhere, to help with Model 3. So we're a couple of years behind on that. But I think we're now making rapid progress with the solar roof, and in particular with new home builders. Obviously, the most efficient way to get a solar roof is to put it on, put a roof on once, instead of, like doing retrofit is obviously fundamentally more expensive than doing solar roof on new homes. So we now have relationships with a number of new home builders, and we expect that those to gather significant momentum. And then we're going to have a campaign which is kind of like, well, I'm dating myself here, I want my MTV. So I want my solar roof. Where is it? So, I think we'll just get people actively asking in new home developments, well, does it have a solar roof and a power wall? Because then, you generate your own power, and you can help stabilize the rest of the grid using the power wall. And we're doing this in partnership with utilities. Like, the thing that I think people need to appreciate is that there's a lot more electricity production that needs to occur as we move to an electric vehicle future. For two homes where both cars are electric, the electricity usage will approximately double. And so if you don't have local power production at the homes with a battery, because the battery's got to buffer the power, otherwise if you just have solar without batteries, it causes these massive waves in the grid, and so you have to have the batteries to stabilize the grid. But those batteries can then act collectively to stabilize the whole grid, and that's software that we've developed that is, I think, first going to go into use in Australia. That's going to be, I think, quite compelling. But you really need, for a sustainable energy future, you have to address electricity at the homeowner level. This is essential. But there will still be a very prosperous future for utilities because electric power will approximately double, and then if you transition heating to electric as well, it approximately triples. So this is a lot of work both at the local level of electricity distribution and at the utilities. Utilities got to expand, and there's got to be solar and batteries at the homeowner level. But having a Tesla Solar with battery means that you have power no matter what. If the utility shuts you off or for any reason, you still have power. When I was here in the Austin blizzard, it's like I was staying at a friend's house, but he didn't have the solar roof and battery, so I'm sitting in the dark, in the cold. And I was like, okay, it really brings home the need for the solar roof and battery.
And, it's a lot of that crisis that is putting this demand into the market without any sort of, advertising or campaign like he was talking about, I want my solar roof. But what he mentioned about the new home builders, tracks with the news I've been reporting, especially on those new home developments in Texas. What's really interesting, he mentions that campaign, is that an advertising campaign? That's the traditional way to get customers to demand a product, advertise. Of course, Tesla's got a little bit of a ninja thing happening here. They've moved their headquarters to Texas, and they're building a huge plant in Texas, and SpaceX has been moving and building in Texas for a long time already. So perhaps it's enough just for Tesla and SpaceX employees to be moving into the area and requesting these amenities. I don't know, we'll see. But Elon repeats his assertion that transportation will double demand and that heating will triple demand. Of course, Texas really needs to heat their buildings because they're so far south. Their climate's very temperate. But for places like where I am, which is in the northeast of the United States, we're unlikely to transition to electric heating in the next 20 years. I mean, if we're going to look at ramping vehicles for the next 10 years, then maybe electric heating can start ramping in the following 10 years. Maybe. It's going to require a hell of a lot of solar and a crushing amount of batteries. And I have a hard time seeing this becoming common before 2040, if I'm going to be honest. But happy to be wrong, and we'll talk about some of the ideas that might help this effort later in the podcast. So why don't we take a pause? When we come back, we'll confirm the detail we have so far and dig into some of the products that Tesla can introduce in the future to support their mission. Now, there have been a couple of times that I've heard the following patter from Elon, And I've not yet drilled into what I think it means. So let's take a listen and we'll discuss on the other side.
So sustainable energy, primarily solar and wind, is intermittent. And so the wind doesn't blow all the time, the sun doesn't shine all the time, obviously. And so you need batteries to buffer that power. So the fundamental pillars of a sustainable energy future are basically solar and wind. Those are the primary. Stationary batteries and electric transport. And if you have those three, then you have a sustainable energy future as long as the sun is shining. So sometimes people ask me about fusion, and I like it as an idea. And by the way, I think it's totally doable. But there's a giant fusion reactor in the sky that shows up every morning, and zero maintenance. So I'm like, sounds like a good deal, Or just catch a little bit of that sunlight and power Earth. A shockingly small amount of land is needed to power Earth. It's like, a couple hundred miles by a couple hundred miles of solar panels will power the entire United States. So it's like, okay, it's not that hard. And then I believe we calculated you only needed 1 square mile of batteries. So you may think like, wow, a lot of batteries. 1 square mile of batteries, it's not that crazy.
So we hear the energy will primarily come from 2 major sources. The first major source, according to Elon, of course, are wind and solar. Tesla offers 2 main products. First, they offer solar panels for retrofit, and secondly, they offer solar roof for new and replacement roofs. Tesla's been increasing the efficiency and the total power output of their solar panels a couple of times since the Solar City acquisition. This will continue, but this probably means we'll be seeing the same thing from the solar roof tiles. So I see a secondary market where Tesla solar roof early adopters upgrade their solar panels with their solar tiles, with higher efficiency output tiles. Now this won't kick in for a while, probably through the payoff period, of the roof at least. So see episodes 8 and 9 for a deep dive on that. But I expect it'll be very economical to upgrade for anyone that's already put in a solar roof, as the tiles should simply require snap-in replacement and, maybe an inverter upgrade. That could be very, very big business. I expect we'll also see more commercial buildings adding solar roofs. Commercial entities are less price sensitive than residential customers, and they're more likely to be able to afford the roof cost. That could be good news for the rest of us as the prices and the installation come down. They become more scaled and more available. So it could be good news for residential in that instance. But what about the other major source of renewable energy? The second major source that Elon keeps mentioning over and over is wind. So I believe that will mean that Tesla will offer a wind turbine to supplement residential energy generation. Now, I'm not talking about windmills here. I'm talking about something compact, something beautiful that can be integrated with a solar system. Something like these right here. These are wind tulips. They're developed by Flower Turbines. I have a link in the description below. And we'll do a whole episode on this, but suffice it to say that this is 100% on brand and on mission, and in my opinion is inevitable as we increase our electricity consumption over the next few years. I mean, just to give you an example, we've got nearly our entire roof covered with active solar panels. Not all of them are going to produce all of the year, which is a bit of a tragedy and something else that I need to cover in a video. But if I don't have any roof left to put solar onto, how am I going to make up for the other? Right now I'm only producing 40% of the energy that I need. How am I going to get the other 60% that I'm using today, let alone the additional energy that I would require in the future for a second electric car, or if we were to move our heating to electric? That additional energy needs to come from somewhere. Maybe the grid, maybe I need to be able to produce more of that here. If we're going to be looking at an energy split 50-50 between residential and utility, then I would need to at least, increase my production by a third. Perhaps that could be done with upgrades to the residential, solar glass roof tile efficiency, but that's not going to happen for another 15 years, maybe 20 years. So there's got to be some supplement before that comes along. A lot to think about, as far as that, all that stuff goes. So let's recap. That's 3 products that I assert Tesla should be adding over the next 20 years to the residential energy business. First, higher efficiency solar roof tiles. Second, commercial solar roofs. And third, a Tesla wind turbine. So save the date. We'll check back to see how far off I am in this in, 10 years or so. But let's move on to the next portion of Tesla's energy cycle of production, energy storage, and energy use. So what might it be able to do in the next couple of decades to increase the efficiency of its energy storage products, right? So we talked about energy generation. We're now going to talk about energy storage. And one of the lowest hanging fruits, and one they've already mentioned, in the battery day, at least, was moving to an iron battery chemistry. Now, this makes a ton of sense since energy storage products don't need to move. This would lower the cost, it would increase the useful life of the product, and it would increase the safety of the battery. All of those things in a single move. And I would say that this is all but inevitable as nickel comes under increasing pressure from heavy-duty transportation requirements like trucks, boats, semis, rail. And honestly, I'm surprised it hasn't already happened. But something else that can be done is, and it's something that is related to the battery because, there's one of these in batteries as well, is changing the inverter. So in the AC coupled battery, you've got an inverter. At the end of every solar string, you've got an inverter. At the end of every solar roof string, you've got an inverter. And we could change those inverters to transformerless inverters. Not only is Tesla's core competency power electronics, but they've already scaled inverters. They're making more inverters than anyone else on the planet. They could potentially cut efficiency loss in half. One of my bugaboos, I hate how much energy I lose putting it in and taking it out of the Powerwall. And they could reduce the cost of their residential energy storage solutions with just that single move on a single product update. The next big thing that I think they can do, and something they're already doing in many markets, but I don't get access to it yet in my market, and that is participating in the home to grid energy market. This would allow the asset to make money for the homeowner by participating in the wholesale energy market over and above net metering, or instead of net metering if the owner is already able to be fully self-powered. There's lots of examples of people who have bought solar and batteries in the Eversource service area here in the Northeast. I don't happen to be in that service area, but they're able to make more money back from the utility than they spent on their solar and battery system, which is just incredible and is potential for an additional product for Tesla to offer. The United States isn't even the best market for that. Tesla said in that clip just a moment ago that it's a product they're probably going to introduce in Australia first, because that's really where the value is going to be seen the most. So I expect as electricity usage increases, all of this is going to become more important. But lastly, there's still one more thing that Tesla can do, and that is something that's been long rumored and has been touted as an intention by other automotive companies, and that's bringing vehicles into the energy grid market, into the grid energy market. Until we all transition to mobility as a service, right? None of us are going to own cars maybe at some point. But until then, we're all, most of us anyway, are going to still own an automobile asset that's sitting unused 90% of the time. It would be enormously more efficient to put those batteries to work, providing both stability to the grid and additional income for the asset owner. So Tesla's been very slow to move on this, but once electric vehicles reach a critical adoption point, and honestly, as renewable energy sources become more of our electricity production, this is simply inevitable. It's got to be done. And let's admit it. I mean, Tesla's market dominance, along with its software expertise, will make this a monster service for Tesla to provide, not just to the grid, but to its customers, many of whom were early adopters. So let's review. I see them adding the following 4 products to their energy storage offerings. iron chemistry for home batteries, transformerless inverters, home-to-grid services, and vehicle-to-grid services. Now, the last part of the energy cycle is energy use. And for home, Tesla has repeatedly raised the possibility of a home HVAC system for more efficient heating and cooling of the home. Now, because this product has essentially already been developed for Tesla for its automotive products, Elon has often speculated that this would be relatively easy to scale up and that it would be a tremendous way to reduce the amount of energy required to regulate temperature in a home. Often, it's the single highest energy requirement for the home. But wait, there's more to consider. Not only are we going to be looking at the energy cycle, but I think there are still 3 more products that fall outside the energy use cycle that are natural additions to Tesla's current home energy products. So the first one I've raised before, and that is glass-only roofs. Now, the point of this is, it can help keep more asphalt roofs from being installed. I mean, I don't know if you've ever gone through an asphalt glass or an asphalt roof installation, or more commonly an asphalt roof tear off and then reinstallation, but it is messy and all that stuff just goes into the landfill. There's a lot of fuss made about the recyclability of asphalt roofs, but the honest truth is that it isn't done. And most of the reason is that it isn't done is that all of that processing that goes into the underlayment and the fastening of the roof products all gets lumped in with that material. So it's not very clean source material for recycling. It all almost always just ends up going into the landfill, which is huge tragedy. But in addition to the benefits of not allowing that to happen, Tesla would be able to seed its solar glass roof business for those that want a beautiful, sustainable roof but can't afford the full solar treatment at the moment, right? If they were to just do a glass roof install without the solar and energy components and the battery especially, they'd be able to save 2/3 of the price of a solar glass roof and just get the glass roof. I mean, this could widen the number of installers that pick up the Tesla roofing product. It could give Tesla a wide base on which they can upgrade their solar products at prices, especially considering battery storage. As all those prices start to come down, they're going to have many more people who would be able to then move on the energy portion of their glass roof install. So something that I think Tesla can really do to prime the market and to make some money in the process. So more detail on the glass-only roof is in episode 12. Now, it's worth pointing out that not everyone is a solar candidate. Some home locations can't get solar. They're shaded. Maybe they're in, behind a mountain or something like that. Their roof orientation may not be right. They may have too much tree coverage. I mean, there's a lot of reasons why a home isn't right for solar necessarily, but these homes would obviously benefit greatly from a glass roof option without solar. Anyway, moving on from that, the next natural product progression speaks to Tesla's core competency, which is software. Now, I expect Tesla will get into something I think you guys will find quite surprising. I think it's going to get into home automation. Now, they already automate their energy production and consumption products, their home energy and cars, and they coordinate the two already. If you went on and you added HVAC, you've got a really strong core that'll dominate the other functions in the home. I mean, that doesn't even consider, if cars become autonomous and then they become an entertainment center, it may make a lot of sense to bring all of that software into the home for a whole life automation experience. Just imagine you're in your car, you're watching a program, you get home, that program's already being queued up on your television, where your home's already been warming up and the lights are now on. Like, I could just see how all of this is coming together, and all of that because Tesla knows where you are and what your preferences are, and you've already subscribed to their services and maybe even their data services through Starlink. I mean, you can really start to get into some crazy stuff, but they're going to be encompassing energy generation, storage, use, entertainment, climate control, home security, access for Airbnb customers, and many other things we probably haven't even imagined yet. So, I mean, if you want to get really crazy, you can add a robot butler to that. Maybe this should be on the list as its own product. I mean, I wish I knew what to think about that, but I'm old. I can't see very far in front of my face. I can't see this happening. I don't know. But let's get back to what I think is very likely. So the last thing that I'm ready to add to this list, as basically just an extension of something else that Tesla's already rolling out. And you might have already guessed it. That would be insurance. So how many of you bundle your home and auto? Any of you that now have Tesla insurance, Tesla car insurance, probably no longer bundle. You can't. But I absolutely see a future where you will again. So if it's, if your home is a Tesla connected, Tesla automated home with services monitored and largely controlled by Tesla, there's plenty of ability for them to assess the risk and offer insurance for your home. And if they're already an insurance company, the barrier to entry is going to be, pretty low. So let's review my list of new products I think that we can expect from Tesla over the next decade. And maybe I'll do like an episode at the beginning of the year, much like Ryan McCaffrey does, where he will speculate on what products are going to be coming up in the next year. And, he grades himself on stuff like that. So maybe I could take some of this and pile it in there. Why I wanted to do it with the Tesla shareholder meeting is because it's the opportunity to look at the business as a whole and to, just assess status and then look to where it's going to be going in the future. And of course, these new products would be future facing. So let's review what I think Tesla is going to be introducing over the next 10 years or so. So for solar energy generation, they're going to introduce solar tile upgrades. They're going to introduce commercial solar roofs, and they're going to introduce Tesla wind turbines. For the energy storage space, they're going to introduce iron batteries, transformerless inverters for both string inverters and for the battery inverters. They're going to introduce home-to-grid energy market tools, and they're going to introduce vehicle-to-grid energy market tools. Now, for the next part of that cycle, to complete that cycle, is energy use. And I think we all know that they're going to move on the HVAC unit. So that's all three major categories. That's a total of what? 7 products, 8 products. And we have more. There are the add-on products that aren't directly related to the energy cycle. And those products are the glass-only roof, home automation, and home insurance. So this outline I put in the show notes. Tell me, how crazy am I? Let me know in the comments. Any ideas that I'm missing? Again, comments. Now, no robots, please. That stuff's just crazy. And with that, let's wrap episode 27 of the Tesla Power Podcast. I'm your Tesla residential energy community organizer, Aaron Brady. And let's do this on the next video.